Nice for your opening.
Before I speak, I'd like to rebut what you've just heard. It seems that my Democratic colleagues aren't listening because I, as chairman, and my Republican colleagues have already said that we'd bring Jack Smith in for a public hearing. I'd also note that Jack Smith has failed to answer my preliminary questions that I sent him last year. For example, did he or his staff use non-government devices for government work? Smith has also misled the committee already by saying that he did everything by the book, and we know that's not true now. So I thank Senator Blackburn for her leadership of this subcommittee and for this hearing. And I can't outdo the strong statement you already made, Senator Blackburn. Today is the first in a series of Arctic Frost hearings that I've authorized as chairman of the full committee. I started the Arctic Frost investigation July of 2022 based on credible whistleblower disclosures. Those whistleblowers disclosed partisan bias in the genesis of election case against Trump and related allegations. I've always said, if you're going to open a politically charged investigation, it must be done in the right way. That partisan bias started with then FBI Special Agent in charge, Thibault, and others, and it continued through Jack Smith's case. As I've shown through Thibault, own social media and emails, he was out to get Trump. And he violated the FBI rules along the way. He also violated the Hatch Act for political conduct at the FBI. Many years of investigation have resulted in thousands of records made public. Let me emphasize that many of the records that I've made public this Congress started in January 2025 with Patel's nomination hearing, have come from brave whistleblowers. Other whistleblower disclosures to my office have helped this administration identify responsive records for the Congress, probably records that the executive branch didn't even know that they had. The New York Times has shamefully published a series of articles trying to undermine these whistleblowers. The Times has disgracefully accused them of violating the law while defending partisan agents and prosecutors who have been exposed for bad conduct. During this investigation, Senator Johnson and I have uncovered how Jack Smith massively expanded the election case. And that's been a focus of our investigation, the improper expansion of Jack Smith's work. He didn't just target President Trump. Jack Smith issued hundreds of subpoenas targeting over 400 Republican organizations and individuals. Some of those subpoenas sought broad and extensive financial data from Republican groups, communications with the media, and the legislative branch. Communications relating to media companies include CBS, Fox News, Fox Business, Newsmax, Sinclair, and others. Now, I think it's a very worthy question. Why haven't these media companies condemned these actions? Financial data relating to Republican groups include the Republican National Committee, Turning Point USA, and hundreds of other organizations. These invasive efforts were spearheaded by partisan agents and prosecutors. Many have now been justifiably fired, despite Democrats complaining about it. It's more than reasonable to question why Smith needed vast financial data, as well as what his partisan team would ultimately do with that data. It's worth noting that two of Jack Smith's partisan prosecutors, J.P. Cooney and Molly Gaston, reportedly filed a complaint with the Department of Justice Inspector General. That complaint was in response to whistleblowers providing me the 197 subpoenas that targeted over 400 Republican groups and individuals. Cooney and Gaston reportedly wrongfully asserted my whistleblowers broke the law in blowing the whistle. The dedication my whistleblowers have to transparency far outweigh improper efforts to silence them by these two rogue prosecutors. In light of Jack Smith and his team's partisan efforts to chill whistleblowers and aggressively seek sensitive information relating to Republican groups and individuals, their efforts to target Republican members' tolling data is even more questionable. To that point, on December the 10th last year, I released several emails. Those emails showed that Smith's team was warned that subpoenaing congressional information could violate the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. They were warned that legislators may intervene and oppose that subpoena process. But here, in this case, my colleagues couldn't intervene because Smith and his team successfully obtained non-disclosure orders, keeping everything top secret. Smith and his team irresponsibly steamrolled ahead while intentionally hiding their activities from members of Congress. Since October 9th last year, this committee has sought information from phone companies about Jack Smith's effort to obtain congressional information. My and Senator Johnson's investigative teams have also provided the companies with additional search terms to get to the bottom of the matter. To date, T-Mobile has identified a subpoena for toll records from Senator Lee's personal phone. AT&T initially asserted it didn't provide information to Jack Smith relating to any member of Congress. Then in November of last year, AT&T amended its answer because it did respond to a subpoena relating to former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Regarding Verizon, two members targeted by Jack Smith were associated with the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms phone lines. Notably, on May 22, 2022, the Senate entered into a contract with Verizon. That contract created an affirmative notification requirement for Senate devices, which means under the contract, Verizon was required to notify the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms when members' offices was subjected to a subpoena. According to the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, these terms applied to May 25th, 2023 subpoena that included two Senate lines, one for Senator Crew, the other for Senator Graham. Verizon failed to perform that notification requirement. Under questioning by my staff, Verizon said they didn't have the infrastructure in place to know whether a congressional number was subpoenaed until February of last year. The federal statute also says that a carrier shall not be barred from providing notice to a Senate office about a subpoena. Today, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile will have a chance to explain themselves. To date, my and Senator Johnson's oversight of these companies has identified that Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile received at least 84 Arctic Frost or Jack Smith related subpoenas. At least 10 are related to 20 current or former Republican members of Congress. So, Smith's deceitful conduct was a substantial intrusion into the core constitutional activities of constitutional officers. If this happened to my Democratic colleagues, they'd be as rightly outraged as we Republicans are. My work will continue because transparency brings accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I